Listen to me. If there was a wise man who would ever think of this, they would say in order to be superior to the man, you've got to be the man. For I am the man himself.
Adrenaline in my zone, every fight out of control. Do it all to get him off their feet. Crowd is here, about to blow. Wait for me to start the show. Out the curtain, lights go up, I'm home. Whoa! I kind of cheated and looked up the couple lyrics that I couldn't remember. I couldn't lie there. I did want to start out by singing Adrenaline in my zone. Something, something, Cody Rhodes, as everybody likes to say. Which, you know, sounds very cool, but I feel like I know like a little bit of the words more than some people do for like the first, for that song. But I didn't know all of it. But I'm sorry, I cheated a little, but I had to start off on a little bit of a calming note. But what is going on, guys? This is the Club of the Man 1993, and this is a special little video that I'm going to be reviewing The American Nightmare, Becoming Cody Rhodes, a documentary on Cody Rhodes that was 2 hours long that is available on Peacock right now that I wanted to do a review for in a while. I had to watch this second time, take some notes, because there was a few things I made sure I didn't want to miss, because like most of the more like modern stuff, I knew a lot more about his behind the scenes stuff, probably since he left WWE, and a couple other little tidbits in there as well that I wanted to know as well. But I think this is it's a very well done documentary. And basically, if you don't think the WWE ever has any plans at making him the guy, like the face of their company, they wouldn't go all out and make a big documentary to just highlight the story and the journey of Cody Rhodes. And the main story of him, wanting to, experience the same things his father has, be able to accomplish a few things his father didn't get to accomplish, but also be able to step out of his shadow and still have some of his father in him, like bleaching his hair, like his father did. But also just making his name himself, Cody Rhodes. Not someone who would say, that's Cody Rhodes, Dusty's son. Just, that's Cody Rhodes right there. And Cody Rhodes has, in fact, accomplished it. And, my goodness, can I definitely say, I've been watching wrestling now. It will be, well, it kind of is already my 11th year. As I always say, my first wrestling event was the Christmas tapings in 2012, when I just made some new friends and I just wanted to, hang out with them. And I watched a couple pay-per-views in 2013, like Rumble, Chamber, Mania, and then it wasn't until SummerSlam 2013, which is when I got hooked and became a wrestling fan. I could say that, Cody Rhodes is somebody that helped a late bloomer fan like me not be afraid to step out of like the WWE comfort zone. He's someone that showed that there's a lot more to the business than just the WWE. Is WWE still kind of like the big leagues? Like the end goal result, yes, especially today whenever they have the right people in charge. Now that Vince McMahon has finally stepped aside. And I think this documentary just illustrated very well how Cody Rhodes made a difference, bet on himself, and also, again, faced the challenge of, although living his father's legacy, living the dream he had wanted to, he also again wanted to establish himself and prove that, he was more than just a man behind face paint. He was more than just Dusty's son. He had a lot of journeys, a lot of stories, a lot of swings and misses. But his work is not done. He is still ready and willing, Gable. He is still on a mission to complete the story. So, let's roll in and talk about the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes. So, Cody grew up in what he likes to call, or maybe other people call it too, God's country, Marietta, Georgia. And of course, he had an older brother, Dustin, as well, as we all know as Goldust, or as he's called in AEW, the Natural, Dustin Rhodes. And he also has an older sister named Teal. Cody Rhodes was born, I forgot what year he was born, they didn't mention that, but it was very well documented that his father was like a hero. And one of his first memories was being put on the mat at WrestleMania 6. Not just in wrestling, but first memories ever. And he also, I think he had thought that his father had won the world title. He said something like I remember you won the title like Hulk Hogan did. But it didn't happen. Because Dusty Rhodes won several titles throughout his wrestling career. But he did not win the WWE Championship. The closest he came to winning it was the match that he won by countout. And there's a picture of him holding up the title, like he showed in his mission statement when he came back to WWE in 2022. But since he won the match by countout, he technically did not win it. So Cody's goal, and he even told Brandy Rhodes this when they first started going out, was like, he showed her the picture, it's like, see that? That's going to be me. And I'm going to bring the title back to him and say, here's something that's yours that you never got to have, or whatever, however he phrased it was. So that was always his mission statement. Unfortunately, though, that's not unfortunately how it's going to be when Cody does have that big moment. Maybe at WrestleMania 40 this year, but who the heck knows, because The Rock now is in his way. But of course, we'll talk about that another day. Probably in the Royal Rumble preview, which will probably be tomorrow, hopefully, going live. So he also stood by Dusty's side in 1995 when he was inducted to the WCW Hall of Fame. He would play football, but his football coach talked Dusty into getting Cody into wrestling. And he started doing amateur wrestling at the age of 9. Of course, there were people who were still labeling him as Dusty. He talks about having a wrestling match, and there was someone in the crowd screaming out, "Beat Dusty! Beat Dusty!" And he's like, "No, that's Dusty. I'm Cody." Of course, when Cody really started digging into it more, Dusty actually built him a gym in their garage. Because the one thing Cody lacked when he first started wrestling was strength. He had the technique down and whatnot, but he just didn't have the strength. And then apparently, I think as a freshman, I think it was, can't remember, as a freshman, I guess he was not a ranked, I guess they're seeded athletes, like first 15 seeded or whatnot. Cody was not even in was even a ranked wrestler. And Cody, as a freshman, got an upset, beating the number 1 seed, which is very impressive. Xavier Woods actually was mentioned in the documentary that he was in a rival high school of Cody. And his goal was he wanted to wrestle Cody Rhodes so he can impress Dusty. Obviously, get a nice rub for him as well. Very interesting, of course, fact there as well. His goal was to be a state champ as a junior, in which he did accomplish that. And when he won the state championship, he asked to be announced as Cody Rhodes. The first time ever he would be announced as that. And whenever he finished his high school wrestling career, he took a bow. Because he was thinking that was going to be it. Although maybe just for a while. Because at the time, he wanted to go to LA. He didn't want to go to college. he told his parents that he doesn't think college is for everyone. But instead, he wanted to go to LA and start focusing on acting. He wanted to go a different path than his father. He felt that if he went to do the acting career first, it would help him like hone the craft a little bit more before he got to wrestling. His sister Teal actually was in college as well. I think for nursing or something. I can't remember what it was. So I think she was 2 years older than Cody, but I can't remember for sure. But she had left college, and she went with Cody to LA to pursue acting. At the time, though, Dusty Rhodes was in a little bit of a struggle, and he was struggling to pay the bills. There were several things that he was selling, trying to get out of the hole. There was even a night where the power went out, and it wasn't even storming. But of course, everybody knew it's because he didn't pay the electric bill and whatnot. And of course, Dusty continued to sell some of his stuff. I can't remember what all Cody said that he sold. But basically, it took a bit for him to get out of the hole. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, didn't in like one of the promos to the build to WrestleMania 39, Paul Heyman kind of helped him out a little bit from what I remember hearing? Don't quote me on it, but I'm not 100% sure. I thought that's what was mentioned in the promos last year. So we had that. And then Cody, of course, was still in LA attending Howard Fine Acting Studio, I believe it was. But I think it was just after 1 year he was in LA, he wasn't happy. It just wasn't working. So one night, Cody Rhodes drove home from LA to Georgia, which in almost 48 hours took him to get home. He knew he had to get back home to his father and have his father help him get into pro wrestling. He was going to go and do it. At 19 years old, he was going to do this. So then, of course, through his father and other, forms of networking, Cody Rhodes did join Ohio Valley Wrestling at the age of 20. Cody Rhodes basically called that his college. And then he was given the privilege at age 21 to be involved in Dusty's speech when he was being inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. Vince McMahon, though, was very impressed. Well, first off, people were already impressed with Cody whenever he came into the OVW. Like, even The Miz was saying how, he's got the moves. Everybody says he's got it. But, of course, people still looked at him as a kid, as Dusty's son, as just a little boy, basically. So, like, the first part of his career at WWE, he was still like a little boy. He was a baby, and people treated him like a baby. He went out and grew up and became a man, and he came back to WWE basically as an adult, is basically what the story was. But Vince McMahon was very impressed with Cody and his speech and how he delivered himself, that 3 months later, Cody Rhodes made his Raw debut against the Viper, Randy Orton. He was still green, and he lost in that first match, but as he said, it's okay. He was presented as a rookie. He's allowed to make mistakes, and he's allowed to have the crowd to grow and get behind him. Of course, he would eventually turn heel when he formed when he got involved with the team of Randy Orton himself and Ted DiBiase Jr., which they were called Legacy. And it was definitely a step to help Cody step out of his father's shadow. But then whenever his Legacy run ended, he really dug into his singles career. And it was definitely 2010, 2011, 2012, where he went on a very strong run. He was dashing Cody Rhodes. And then whenever to have a character development, he had to kind of go away from dashing Cody Rhodes to undashing Cody Rhodes. Starting with the moment where Rey Mysterio broke his nose and he had to wear that mask. And he took the mask, which was an idea from a basketball player named Rip Hamilton, who wore it after he had a nose injury. And he basically, with that mask, used him to be undashing, because to show that, what was once, beautiful and like the moneymaker, like kind of like the Miz when he would always call his face the moneymaker, doesn't want to be punched there in the face and whatnot, be like the pretty boy and whatnot. Now it's destroyed. Now he's got to play along with the fact that it is destroyed. He's gone depressed. He's gotten unhinged. That's when he was wearing like the paper bags, and other people who weren't getting the paper bags were wearing the paper bags to episodes of Raw and SmackDown, whichever brand he was on. Which included, even though it was a very crappy WrestleMania, he had his first singles match. Well, he was involved in a triple threat at WrestleMania 26. All three members of Legacy, Randy Orton, Cody Rhodes, and Ted DiBiase Jr. all faced started in a triple threat. His first ever one-on-one match, though, was at WrestleMania 27 against Rey Mysterio. And he won. And of course, he remembers seeing Dusty in the crowd holding up a BlackBerry, taking a picture. And it was kind of like, for once, Dusty got to be his fan, which meant a lot, of course, to him. And then, of course, he would then go on to become Intercontinental Champion in 2011. I think he had like 2 stints of it. And in 2012 also. Until he dropped it to, I can't remember who he dropped it to. I know he dropped it to Christian briefly, but then won it back. And I can't remember who won it after him. No, I'm sorry. He dropped it to Big Show. He won it. Maybe he's a 3-time Intercontinental Champion because he lost to the Big Show at WrestleMania 28. He then, what was it now? WrestleMania 28. He lost to the Big Show. He won it back at Extreme Rules in that dumb tables match. I know Christian had it for like a second, and then he won it back. Is he a 3-time Intercontinental Champion? I can't remember. I know he's a multi-time tag team champion also. But anyways, he won that, and that was kind of when like things were really clicking for him. Because even during that time in 2011 is when he first met Brandy Rhodes, which she was an announcer on FCW. Where Cody made an appearance, because that's where Dusty was starting to get a little more control over developmental, involvement with developmental and whatnot. And I guess Cody was at a show and saw her, and he made some comment about her hairdo. And then Beth thought that Cody was insulting Brandy thought that, I'm getting ahead of myself. Brandy Rhodes, she wasn't Brandy Rhodes, of course. Brandy thought that Cody was insulting her hairdo. But Beth Phoenix said, nah, that was a way of Cody flirting with you. And him and Brandy started dating like pretty quickly after. Like I told you earlier, the story about how he showed Brandy that picture of Dusty holding up the title after he won by countout, but he didn't technically win the title. He says, that's going to mean something. I'm going to win the title and bring it back to him and say, what should have been yours is now yours, to give it to him. But then him and Brandy, of course, eventually got married in September of 2013. And then it wasn't after that he started getting involved in random tag teams. And then probably the best, of course, was whenever he started teaming up with his brother Goldust in 2013 when the Rhodes family was feuding with the Shield. And they had that classic of a match at Battleground and in 2013. And of course, they basically handed the Shield their first loss as a tag team. And then 2 weeks later, they dethroned the Shield and won the tag titles. One of the first few episodes of Raw I ever watched, by the way. The week after, it was in Pittsburgh, actually. Although, of course, he was successful to team with Goldust, that was where his career began to slow down. Because they had some story where they were in a slump after they dropped tag titles. And then Cody wanted better for his brothers, so he was giving Goldust all these random tag partners until he was repackaged as Stardust, which, first with the designs of the costume, Cody thought that they were just trying to make him a little more unique. But in the end, he was basically just a mini Goldust. And, people thought, and Cody tried everything. He went all out with the character, but everybody even saw it too. Stardust was never going to make him a main eventer. He was going to be just like a low or mid-card act that he was never going to get elevated to the top again. And it started to show in that's not how they saw him. They just still saw him again as Dusty's son. He also had a feud with Stephen Amell in 2015, which him and Wade Barrett teamed up against him and Neville, well now Pac, which also Stephen Amell was actually the narrator of this documentary. Now, getting a little ahead of myself, but obviously Cody was not happy at Stardust. And the first person to actually suggested for him to leave and go somewhere else was his own father, Dusty. Which Cody at first didn't think that was the right thing to do. But it was also getting under Cody's skin, though. And it wasn't so much towards his father, but this is around the time when NXT first started becoming. FCW was transferring over to NXT. And the young talent that was there, like Sasha, Bayley, Charlotte, Kevin, Sammy, Neville, Tyler Breeze, Finn Balor. All these future stars were being groomed. And Cody was not one of them. And it just bothered him because he just didn't feel like he was part of the future, and he should be. And he's still young. He was the same age as all of them. He was not even in his late 20s before he left WWE, I believe was the first time. But despite all that, though, Dusty still always spoke high of Cody. Dusty, of course, would then die in June of 2015, which Cody, of course, took it very hard. But for a while, though, after that, I think until he said the SummerSlam match, even though he hated the Stardust gimmick, at the time, he kind of used the Stardust gimmick to hide behind his emotions instead of going back to being Cody Rhodes. But then, of course, once, though, he felt ready to let go, though, of the Stardust character, which, again, I think it was around after his SummerSlam tag team match with Barrett against Stephen Amell and Neville, WWE, though, wasn't planning on it at all. There was even a time, well, I know the closest probably was whenever they were already talking about bringing back the brand split in 2016. They were going to have him be Cody Rhodes on one show and Stardust on another, which Cody did not approve of at all. There's even a time also where Cody tried to talk to a writer, and they basically put their hand up in his face and shunned him and ignored him, which bothered him to death. I think he even said something to Triple H about it. He said it was getting that ridiculous that he had a tumbler that he would drink whiskey in as he was watching the show towards the end of his run. And I think Triple H also told him too that if you want to get noticed, sometimes you just have to rattle the cage. Cody did that, of course, when he requested for his release shortly after WrestleMania 32 in Dallas. And WWE granted him that release in the spring or early summer of 2016. Where, again, sometimes is one of the first people that showed you can make money outside the WWE. Sometimes, again, you have to leave in order to get noticed. And as Triple H said, rattle the cage. And as also Cody would say is, WWE did not fire him. He fired WWE. So, of course, after he left and he was free, he posted a list of all he wanted to do, and he made it very public. Who he wanted to wrestle, other things he intended on doing and whatnot, where he wanted to wrestle at. And of course, he was, for the next several years, Cody Rhodes became probably the biggest star on the indies in any promotion, whether it's Ring of Honor, Impact, and he briefly made an appearance in before, of course, AEW, ROH, Evolve, several others. Every show he New Japan, any show he appeared in, he was the star. He broke down the forbidden door. I think he did everything on that list he did during that time except wrestle Roderick Strong, because he was in NXT at the time. Of course, now Roddy's in AEW, where Cody, of course, found it. His first match outside WWE was in August of 2016 on the Indies, and he also wrestled Kurt Angle a few times that very same year. And then, I think it was the first year he wrestled in the Tokyo Dome. I think it was 2017, I think it was, where he discovered the character of the American Nightmare. Which is basically like a little bit of a mix of everything he's been through. A little bit of dashing Cody Rhodes, a little bit of Stardust, a little bit of, being unhinged. Like, it was just like a mixture of his journey, even a little bit of Dusty at the same time. And then once, of course, he established himself on the Indies as Cody Rhodes, finding his gimmick, again, the American Nightmare, he eventually felt he could share a little bit more of Dusty in him. Such as, of course, bleaching his hair. And, of course, again, his mission was to show that wrestling's bigger than just WWE. WWE, of course, is a place to be. He always wanted to go back. He always wanted to achieve the goal of his father. He always wanted to finish not just his father's story, but his story. Prove that he was the best and bet on himself. And that kind of started. And to me, like, he kind of did Dusty's work when he was starting to, help establish the next generation of wrestling. Just not in WWE. On the Indies. Because he was the one, along with him and the Young Bucks, several other big stars on the Indies, who wanted to challenge themselves. He wanted to basically show they can bring 10,000 into a stadium. 10,000 people into a stadium for an Indies pay-per-view, which was all in 2018. And the person apparently who came up with that name was his sister Teal. And of course, it was a success. And then that led eventually to him finding AEW, All Elite Wrestling, which him and the Young Bucks, and I believe Brandy, of course, signed their AEW contracts on January 1st, 2019. Now, they didn't really talk too much about his time in AEW or show a lot of any highlights or anything, probably because AEW owns all of it. They don't want to give it all up. But yeah, it kind of just... Now, before I go on any further, well, first off, also, while he was in AEW, I believe it was 2020, yeah, because it was during a time when he was feuding with Brody Lee with the TNT title. And I believe when he dropped the title, he took some time off because he wanted to be there with Brandy, who was about to give birth to their daughter, Liberty, which they did. Now, before I get to the next part of when he came back to WWE, I'm not going to 100%... I'm going to be 100% honest. So 2022, we all know it was a crazy year of wrestling. At the beginning of the year, it was announced that Cody Rhodes became a free agent in January of 2022 when his AEW contract expired. And I was one of the people at the time who, again, had I would have known what Cody's intentions were, to finish his story, to, do his things for Dusty, I, at the time, not going to lie, never saw Cody going back to WWE. Especially in one of his last promos before his last match, that ladder match he had with Sammy Guevara for the TNT title. He even took a shot at WWE. That's around the time when they changed Walter's name to Gunther, and even it's like Gunther McGillicuddy or whatever the heck the name is. He still fired shots the last couple days in AEW, and that included during a period of time where he was technically working with AEW without a contract. He was finishing the job there. He even again had a stipulation for this wasn't talked about in the documentary, for Full Gear 2019, where he put the stipulation where if he didn't beat Chris Jericho for the world title, he will never challenge for the world title in AEW ever again. At the time, I thought Cody Rhodes just did this just for himself. No. Him doing All In 2018, him creating AEW was for there to be another place to go in the business. Another place that recognizes wrestling. And to me, another place that has a different style than WWE does. It's TV-14. It's a unique product. WWE is more so of like entertainment and everything. AEW has entertainment, but it's more wrestling focused and different styles of wrestling. Has it fallen off a little since Cody's left? Yes, definitely. But again, I'm not going to lie and say in 2022, I thought Cody Rhodes was a sellout and making one of the biggest things in his life. And I also thought that he was a crazy wild man and doing what he's doing. And I just thought he's going to get screwed again. He is going to get screwed again. And before we even get to when he made his return, apparently, because whenever Vince McMahon and Bruce Prichard found out that Cody was indeed a free agent, through other sources, they basically said they'd be willing to talk to Cody, and within 5 minutes, Cody contacted them. And just like that, they were on a plane to Atlanta or wherever Cody's living. Vince McMahon and Bruce Prichard flew to Cody's house to get him back. And Cody was clear that if he's coming back, nothing was going to change. And they basically said, we don't want anything to change. We want the American Nightmare, which of course Cody could bring in because he owned. WWE didn't own it. AEW didn't own it. He owned it. The American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes. So of course, Cody said that first he said he didn't want this part edited at all, but he just wants to say he can't tell us why he left AEW, but he didn't leave because of money or other talents, because of a personal issue. What that was, I don't know. To me, though, again, like I said, watch this documentary. It looked like that Cody Rhodes was, building another place where people can go to form the next generation of wrestling. Not developmental, but, another place to shine at. And, he thought his work was done. And he was a free agent. WWE knocked on his door. And he chose to go back to WWE because he felt he had proven himself. And he was recognized as that. And he believed this was an opportunity for him to achieve the dream he always wanted. To win that title for his father. Even, of course, if it was at WrestleMania. So, Cody Rhodes would make his return at WrestleMania 38 in Dallas. Which, again, was the same place where he had wrestled his last WWE match in Dallas, Texas at AT&T Stadium for WrestleMania 32. And he appeared as Seth Rollins' mystery opponent, handpicked opponent by Vince McMahon. Because apparently Seth said that the plans weren't finalized probably until about 2 weeks until WrestleMania. Because his previous plans had fallen off. Because the only rumor I heard was, it sounds like originally Shane McMahon was making a pitch for him to fight Seth Rollins at WrestleMania that year. But with his crappy booking of the Rumble and whatnot, all that drama, he was apparently fired. Then he came back at WrestleMania 39 and tore his freaking quad or whatever heck it was that he tore while he wrestled Miz. And then Snoop Dogg hopped in and did that horrible looking rock bottom. Oh goodness. But anyways, getting back to Cody. And he came back and he had quite a return match. Again, I thought, at the time, I wasn't happy Cody did that. But again, as I've seen the booking, I've seen everything else that's happened, I think Cody Rhodes, maybe, of course, I feel it was a little more lucky because Triple H did eventually take over. I feel Cody Rhodes did make the right choice for himself. Again, I apologize that I called him a sellout, that I basically thought he was making a big mistake. He didn't. He is getting the recognition that he deserves. He's established himself as a big star. He has handled the situations well, like last year whenever Sami Zayn got some more momentum. If it was Vince McMahon, he would have completely sabotaged the momentum of one of them, but made the person like the Cody Rhodes be hated right there. him not winning at WrestleMania 39, I still think was the right call to make. He wasn't ready yet because of, well, getting a little ahead of ourselves. His mom, though, was not able to attend WrestleMania 38 as she was already at a wedding for their granddaughter, but they had a little watch party. But then, after some very great performances, 3 days before his Hell in a Cell match against Seth Rollins, at Hell in a Cell, Cody was bench pressing, and while he was bench pressing, he tore his pec, which he looked doomed from the beginning. And out of everyone who was involved in this, he was the only one who was demanding them not to cancel the match. He felt that if he has to go away, okay, but he has to do this match. He has to keep that momentum on him. If he cancels this match, like, that's going to hurt him. And I agree. It would have hurt him if he didn't wrestle that match. But I said it at the time. Even though it would have happened, I still would have respected him for not wanting to wrestle the match. But if he wanted to be the guy, he felt he had to do this. He fought for it. The doctors basically said that, he tore it completely off the bone. It can't get any worse. He still has the strength in his arms and chest. So he could still do it. And he wrestled that match. And Corey Graves even said, when Cody revealed, the pec tear, when he came out and got into the cell, and then the dramatic way he took the jacket off and just how purple it was. Like, Corey Graves said on commentary, he had not seen Cody until that moment. So his reaction was genuine. Again, I thought he was crazy. I even thought he was nuts for showing up on Raw the next day also, before he left and whatnot. But even though I still think he was crazy, I still thought he definitely accomplished what he wanted to do in that match. He made himself look like the guy. The guy. Like, he made him look tough as hell. He was phenomenal in the match. Seth Rollins as well. I still think this feud with Cody also brought out, like, the momentum that Seth Rollins needed to make himself, a top babyface again like he is now. I still cannot tell you how in the hell Seth Rollins became a top babyface again, especially after what happened with him in 2019. I still don't know how that happened. But I do think this feud with Cody, despite the fact he lost all 3 of the matches, that helped him as well. But Cody did the match, and then a few days later, he got surgery to repair his pec, and he was out for 7 months. While he was out, he started his wrestling school, the Nightmare Factory. And then, of course, when he was getting ready to get cleared, a month before the Rumble, when he was getting evaluated to be cleared, he wrestled NXT's Carmelo Hayes, who is slowly making his way onto SmackDown, which is cool. And, of course, he got cleared. He was good. They brought him back at number 30 in the Rumble, which if they did, I said this in my recap and review I just posted a few days ago for the men's Rumble from last year. I think things would have been better if Cody would have not come back at number 30. I mean, had he come back at number 30 and not been advertised, maybe it wouldn't have been as bad. But the fact he came back at number 30 and was advertised, and again, he missed 7 months because of this pec injury, that's what kind of hurt the momentum for him to win at WrestleMania 39. Because people thought that he was just going to be getting handed this on a silver platter. He was going to win the title off of Rome. He would have loved that, but he would have been booed afterwards. He would have been booed. And they would have probably had to turn him heel. And he won the Rumble. They gave him a good 15 minutes in that match, if you can't remember. But then he also mentioned that he had a little bit of a scare during that Rumble match because the first chop he took from Gunther went right by his scar from his surgery. And he kind of felt like the jolt a little bit, and it kind of gave him a little bit of fear in it. But with WrestleMania 39, he lost. And again, it still has not yet been addressed. But the reason why he lost is because of Paul Heyman. That's the only reason why he lost. It's because of Paul Heyman. He had overcome the Usos. He had overcome Solo Sikoa. He gave Solo Sikoa his first loss and got Solo ejected from the match. The only reason why Solo came back out was because of the last piece of the puzzle. Again, as I keep seeing, as Roman Reigns Nagini, the last Horcrux to destroy, to take out the Tribal Chief, Paul Heyman. And that's the story that has to be addressed whenever to get back to it. Whether it's WrestleMania this year, whether it's SummerSlam, which at this point, I think it's going to be SummerSlam. I hate to say it, I really think they're going to go with Roman Reigns and The Rock. Especially if The Rock is already teasing the match. The fact that The Rock is now part of the board of directors for TKO. What Cody's going to do, though, I don't know. But of course, if it happens still WrestleMania 40 this year, I would say awesome. But I don't know, because he's kind of in a tough spot now with this. But the story ain't over. Cody is going to win that world title someday. You can't tell me they made this documentary with no intentions of Cody Rhodes becoming the guy. He's earned it. This story just tells itself. Again, he finally escaped out of the shadow of being Dusty Rhodes' son, and was Cody Rhodes. He established who he was, a superstar, a Hall of Famer, a legend, a guy, again, who made a statement in wrestling, who bet on himself, who left the WWE to rattle the cage, as Triple H told him he had to do. He rattled the cage, he became the biggest star in the Indies, biggest star in Ring of Honor, biggest star in New Japan, biggest star in Impact, whatever you want to call it. Biggest star all over the freaking place as the American Nightmare. And even though he never won the world title, he was a multiple-time TNT champion, but the star of AEW as well. The company he found that honestly needs to exist because it increases competition, it gives people other places to go as well, and it provides a variety for the wrestling audience. Cody Rhodes, even though he hasn't finished a story yet, he's had quite a career. He's had quite a story. And I do believe he will someday be the one to dethrone Roman Reigns, as he should be. He will dethrone the head of the table, the Tribal Chief. He will accomplish that mission. And even though he won't be able to physically take Dusty the title, he can still take it to his grave. I'm pretty sure once that happens, we will see him somehow having some segment showing that title to his father's grave at some point. But this story, again, well done, well illustrated. It was a great ride to watch. That is how the American Nightmare became Cody Rhodes. Fascinating documentary. Excellently well done. Well done produced. Well done narrated, of course, by Stephen Amell. I loved it. And if you haven't watched it yet, it is on Peacock. I definitely recommend going to check it out. But that, my friends, that's my review of the American Nightmare becoming Cody Rhodes. What are your thoughts on this documentary as well? What are your thoughts on the stories you heard about Cody? From his young days, from his mission, from him meeting Brandy, from him coming to WWE and getting his Raw debut at the age of 21 years old, to leaving WWE, going to AEW, for coming back to WWE. What do you guys all think? Any of your thoughts are appreciated down below in the comments section. And be sure also to slap a like on the video and subscribe for more content to my channel. Follow me on Twitter as well at the Club of the Man 93. You may also follow me on TikTok and Instagram at the Club of the Man 1993. And will Cody Rhodes this Saturday at the Royal Rumble, will he punch his ticket to WrestleMania by winning the Royal Rumble back-to-back years? I already kind of spoiled it when I said I'm starting to think it's not going to happen at WrestleMania this year. But it is going to happen at some point. What path will Cody go next to get there? We'll have to find out. Thank you guys again. I'm checking out. Have a great rest of your Wednesday night. I'll catch you guys all later. Should be a Raw review soon. And hopefully also tomorrow will be my Royal Rumble live preview and predictions. So until then, guys, I'm checking out. I'll catch you all later. And do not forget, in order to be superior to the man, you've got to be the man. And Cody Rhodes is becoming the guy in WWE. I don't know if I can outdo the guy, but I can always claim my title as the man. Because for I am the man himself. And that is not just an opinion, my friends. That is a fact of life. Yeah!